Welcome back to the 504 Core Podcast. We're here again with Zack Nagy. What's been up, man? You got to be busy, huh?
Yeah, no, we've officially entered busy season. So all about kind of just getting in the nitty gritty with LSU football. Obviously, it's been kind of a interesting first 3 weeks of the season for the program. But look, they got two gimmies coming up and then a bye week, then Ole Miss. So we'll see what happens there. But nonetheless, pretty busy so far. Can't lie.
Yeah, we'll rewind a little bit. We haven't done a pod since the USC game. Obviously, LSU lost. What were your kind of first reactions or initial takes from that game?
Yeah, I mean, for me, look, I think there were some offensive issues there in the game plan. Just from a playbook diversity perspective, there was just tremendous issues when it came to Joe Sloan and the play calling group. And we've seen that in the last 3 weeks as a whole total. So, but keeping on the USC game alone, there were some offensive issues there. I would never have thought that the LSU defense would have held USC to 10 points in the first half. And realistically, 20 points throughout the whole game. Obviously, they had that touchdown late. But look, the defense held up their end of the bargain in week one. And your offense couldn't necessarily live up to the hype. You couldn't run the ball. Fresh after Will Campbell was saying that they were going to run the ball down teams' throats. You saw trouble with Josh Williams, Caleb Jackson. Your biggest run of the game was John Emery, who 48 hours later tears his ACL in practice. I mean, look, there's been some concerns on offense. It started in week one. We've seen them trend a little bit in the right direction in weeks 2 and 3. But look, week one alone, defense held up their end, offense didn't, and you ultimately start off the season 0-1 once again. So some troubles in that area, but they're starting to trend in the right direction, I'm hoping.
Yeah, I know they got Clemson week one next year, and then Clemson again week one after that. Has there been any like scuttlebutt with LSU, like talking about not doing these week one matchups at all? Have you heard anything, or they just kind of keep rolling with it?
Yeah, I mean, look, you're going to have to play your home and home with Clemson and knock that out. But for the foreseeable future, I wouldn't imagine LSU is going to schedule these big time week one games with that with SEC expanding. Texas, Oklahoma are in it. You don't know what's going to happen even longer. I mean, you could have an even bigger super conference in the future. But I'd be shocked to see LSU go out and schedule these massive primetime week one games just because your SEC schedule is such a gauntlet. So for now, you're going to play your Clemson matchups and knock those out. But for the foreseeable future, I really couldn't imagine anything more, kind of looking at the greater picture.
Yeah, no, I for sure hope they kind of change things up a little bit. I think everyone always respects LSU for these big games they play. It's always the hardest, schedule in the country, maybe, top five consistently. So, LSU always kind of goes out of their way to play these tough games, and sometimes it pays off, and a lot of times it hasn't. Where they dropped like 4 straight openers.
Yeah, they haven't won one since 2019, so I think it's 5 now. So
Five, yeah.
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, it's not good. But yeah, then they got a kind of a tune-up game with Nicholls. They were struggling with Nicholls for a little while, and then they kind of just broke apart. I think it's kind of typical. You saw that with South Florida and Alabama. South Florida was hanging with them, and then conditioning kicks in, better athletes kick in. So that just kind of comes with the territory. But yeah, I was kind of concerned at halftime. I was like, maybe LSU isn't everything what people make them seem to be. So they got that done, kind of tune-up game. And then, South Carolina, we could take this in a lot of directions. I'll let you have the floor on that one.
Yeah, I mean, look, going down 17-0 early in the second quarter is abysmal. I mean, just I the slow starts under the Brian Kelly era to me are of the biggest concern. You go out and you go down double digits. I believe he's done that in 33% of his games so far with LSU or something. Like
That's crazy.
it's unbelievable. Just and don't quote me on that. It might be a little bit less, but they've gone down double digits in significant games under Brian Kelly, and it showed up again in week 3 at South Carolina. So look, bottom line from that game is your defense showed up to the plate again. And I'm not sitting here trying to hype up this defense by any means, but week 1, they surprised some people. Of course, you had your issues with Sage Ryan, Jordan Gilbert, etc. But fast forward to week 3, and you saw some defensive growth, specifically in that third and fourth quarter where they forced 2 fumbles and gave LSU, the offense, just significant chances to go out and get points. You had 3 chances in the red zone from inside the 15, and you only come up with 3 points. I mean, it's fascinating to me how the offensive play calling has continued to hurt them time and time again. You're inside the 2, and you run it up the gut 3 times in a row where Josh Williams, et cetera, gets stopped, and then you just turn it over on downs. So, look, or maybe that was when Nussmeier threw the pick, but bottom line is your defense is holding up their end of the bargain. They're doing some impressive things. I'm not going to try to contradict myself here. Your offense is doing good things too under Garrett Nussmeier. But to me, red zone inefficiency and missed opportunities have been what continue to plague the program, and we saw that against South Carolina. You played some of your worst ball, probably that you'll play all year, and you came out with a really big win with ESPN College Game Day there. You got the win, but at what cost? I mean, you got everybody talking about how trash they are right now. So, look, you came out with the win, but there's a lot of things that need to improve on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I don't know what the stigma is. It's like everyone kind of just discounts South Carolina. They probably have the best defensive line in the country. It's not an easy place to play. Like, it's a hungry team. Everyone's like, "Oh, this should have been an easy win." Like, no, this South Carolina team is a little bit different than what it's been in the past. So, I think people overlook South Carolina. I think a lot of experts didn't, but like seeing on Twitter and stuff, it's kind of ridiculous. They just kind of discount. It was, yeah, like you said, it was more about like LSU sucking rather than LSU like showing up. But yeah, the first half was really abysmal.
Well,
Yeah,
not
it
to
was getting pretty
interrupt.
dark. Yeah,
Yeah, not to interrupt by any means necessary, but Dylan Stewart, I mean, holy hell. Like, I'll keep it
yeah,
PG. Like, that dude will be a top 5 pick in 3 years. I mean, that guy is phenomenal. What he's doing as a true freshman is unheard of. I mean, he was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school and everything, but I mean, he's playing above a 5-star caliber guy. He has that South Carolina pass rush looking historic. They have 7.5 sacks the first 3 weeks of the year. They're leading America in that category. I mean, they look fantastic. And Kennard is a freak. Like, that pass rush is insane. So, look, yes, don't discredit what South Carolina is capable of. Shane Beamer's going to get that team to win 8 games this year. And 8-4 with South Carolina this year, you're trending in the right direction. You're looking good. I was thoroughly impressed with them. And not to, like, take anything away from LSU, but that offensive line got abused on a few occasions. Yes, they
yeah.
held up their end on a couple of times, but that game was going to be won and lost in the trenches, and LSU skated away to barely survive that upset scare.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how many times have you seen Will Campbell struggle like in a game like he did against South Carolina? I mean, just the offensive line as a whole was not very impressive. Offensive line as a whole, like the first 3 games haven't been that impressive. That was kind of supposed to be their strength. I'm not gonna say they're bad, but they're definitely not as good as they've been hyped up to be. So, yeah, I mean, Will Campbell struggled. That was a surprise. Will Campbell's going to be a first-round pick. Emory Jones probably going to be a first-round pick as well. So a little bit surprising. But, yeah, just people are discounting that win a little bit. I think it was just the way they won. I mean, they easily could have lost. I mean, Nuss threw quite possibly 3 interceptions. 2 of them, one was dropped and another one, they were both dropped. But that pick 6 where Nuss got laid out, a lot of controversy came from that. So LSU could easily be 1-2 here. I guess that's more the thing I've gotten from everything else. So I guess kind of concerning with that. Yeah, and then one thing you were talking about play calling. One thing I've noticed too, they kept throwing to the flats like way too much, like checking down. One thing Denbrock did do was like do a lot of crossing routes, like go routes, like slow and implemented here and there, but like they didn't really start going to the middle until the third quarter, and then like things really started to click. So that was something I've noticed in the first couple of weeks. I don't really understand why they do that, but you are under different play calling. So I guess we'll just be glad that LSU got the dub there. But yeah, what else? Anything South Carolina wise you want to talk about?
I mean, look, kind of just piggybacking off of what you said. Look, they were throwing it to the flat and having to check down and do these quick passes
Yeah.
because, I mean, you count to 1.5, and Garrett Nussmeier's getting pressured. For me, my main takeaway through 3 weeks so far, on a positive note, I've been sitting here kind of being pessimistic a little bit. Look, Garrett Nussmeier's the real deal. Like, I mean, this guy is looking fantastic. And there are people who would disagree with me on that, and I certainly would listen to what they have to say. But for me, Nussmeier's been surgical. I mean, he's leading the SEC in touchdown passes, completions. He's completing 70% of his passes. Against the South Carolina pass rush, he put up almost 300 yards where he had half a second to get the ball off. I mean, he's looked fantastic at times. And, of course, there's going to be those dreadful moments. That's the Garrett Nussmeier experience. You're going to have those missed opportunities every now and then, a pick now and then. But on his stat sheet, there's only 2 interceptions, and one of them was a last-second throw against USC in garbage time. So, for me, look, I've been really impressed with Nussmeier so far. His numbers are up there with some of the best quarterbacks in the country. in the SEC, he's a top 2, top 3 pass or signal caller. So I've been really impressed with him so far, and just gutsy plays time and time again. The play calling has been abysmal. There's no rushing attack. There's no push on your interior offensive line. Garrett Nussmeier is having to do some tricky things right now, and it's hard for me to discredit anything that he's doing right now. He's also doing it without a starting receiver in Chris Hilton. So I've been really impressed with what he's doing right now. I think some people could disagree with me, and I would understand completely. But through 3 weeks and 3 weeks alone, I've been impressed with what he's bringing to the table so far for LSU.
Yeah, I've always said that Nussmeier's going to put up stats, but then he's just going to throw that pick that's going to drive you crazy. So
The experience.
obviously, yeah, that's where the gunslinger stuff comes in. I mean, that's anytime someone describes him, it's always gunslinger. So yeah, I would say that's true. What would you grade him? Like a B plus, A minus, A plus? What would you grade him?
Yeah, I'd give him an A for right now. I'd give him a 90 grade out of 100, just because the numbers are speaking for themselves. And yes, stat sheets and box scores don't necessarily tell the whole tale of kind of the game and what's going on through 3 weeks. But for me, looking at him checking at the line of scrimmage, being smart with the football, take away that that interception that he threw in the end zone against South Carolina, that was as head scratching as it gets. But again, the Nussmeier experience, you're going to have those head scratching moments.
Yeah.
I give him a 90. I think what he's done has been surgical. Some of the throws that he's made are Sunday throws. I mean, he's made NFL throws, specifically in that South Carolina game. I mean, there were some passes that he made that kind of had me jump out of my seat and just be like, how the hell are you threading the needle like that? So long story short, you've been A right now. I think he has a chance to continue to improve. But look, I've been impressed with him, and I think he can continue to lead this program if all things continue trending in our direction.
When it's all said and done, do you think it'll be a first round pick?
No. I would expect Garrett Nussmeier to be back in an LSU uniform next year. Right now on September 17th, that's my expectation from what I've heard and what I would believe. But if he plays himself into a top 2 round quarterback, I mean, the conversation may change. But first rounder, I wouldn't go that high right now. It's a long season.
I mean, if he's trending the way he is, you saw what like NFL teams are willing to do. Like, what was Bo Nix projected as? Like a late first, and what is he, top 15 pick? So Penix late first goes top 10. Like teams are so desperate for quarterbacks, it's kind of embarrassing. So I wouldn't be surprised if he continues to trend the way he is. I wouldn't be surprised to make himself a first round pick. But yeah, we'll see. You mentioned the rushing attack. Obviously, Caden Durham emerged. That was nice to see. Everyone's hoping Caleb Jackson, including myself, was going to take that role. He hasn't taken it quite yet. It kind of seems up in the air, but I'd say Caden Durham after this game, it has the upper hand. Have you heard anything regarding against UCLA, who they're going to run out there most, or is it just going to be kind of a committee thing with Josh Williams as well?
Yeah, so my thing kind of on the running back situation right now would be, everybody wants to see Caleb Jackson break out. I mean, this dude's a 6 foot, 235-pound bowling ball with the ball in his hands. Like, it's hard to tackle him. Caden Durham came out and showcased that he can be a 3-down back for you. I mean, if you look at the numbers on PFF, I mean, his pass pro was even fantastic for a true freshman. I mean, he looked fantastic. He gave you an opportunity to kind of develop this rushing attack, bouncing to the outside, breaking tackles. He had 50-plus yards after contact. He had 98 yards, 2 touchdowns, 8.9 yards per carry. I mean, he looked phenomenal. He has all the makings of becoming your RB1. And, of course, Brian Kelly is going to give that answer where, I'm not ready to publicly state that Caden Durham's our RB1, or I can't sit out here and say that he's going to get a majority of the snaps. But for me, it's not necessarily about what Brian Kelly is going to say right now. It's about what he rolls out in the game on Saturday against UCLA. I think that's going to start to speak kind of volumes as to where this running back room is going to trend. I'd expect Caden Durham to get a lot of the snaps here. I mean, this is a guy who's proven that he can do it. Josh Williams is obviously your savvy vet, and Brian Kelly kind of shifts towards the seniority. He likes to give the older guys the upper hand. But I think eventually with this program, you're going to have to give the youngsters a shot, and Caden Durham's going to be one of those youngsters that gets significant snaps. And I think it's going to start this week.
I'm so glad you said that, the seniority here. It was kind of a detriment last year with Wood Weeks. Wood Weeks is the only player making plays last year, and they refused to play him. This year, I'm not going to mention names, but I think we all know that certain DBs are just getting torched. And then I feel like there's got to be better guys behind these guys, and I feel like Kelly just leans on these guys a little too much. I think that's one of his kind of his downfalls, to be honest with you. So, Yeah, I hope he kind of changes his ways a little bit on that. So, but we'll see.
Well,
Kind
look,
of
let's
moving.
let's piggyback off that real quick. That's one of the things that we wanted to talk about was true freshman impacts. And
Yeah,
for me, dude, like you have a Deshaun Spears at safety. I was so high on him in the spring. I mean, this dude has all the makings of being a superstar for LSU in the defensive backfield. He fits that prototypical LSU mold. He's long, lanky, he's twitchy, he's athletic. He can do a lot of things in the backfield. He's a hard hitter. He's not scared of contact. He earned the start, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him continue to start for the rest of the year. Deshaun Spears is a very, very good football player who's really coming out and stealing some spots. Jordan Allen was hurt. He couldn't play. Jordan Gilbert has been sporadic in his play. He'll have one good play, one bad play. Well, I need consistency from him. He showcased a little bit of that on Saturday against South Carolina, but it's all about consistency. But true freshman impact, Deshaun Spears is a guy that I'm looking at to continue to trend in the right direction. And if you want some change in that defensive backfield, it's going to start with him. At cornerback, look, you said we're not going to name names. We're definitely going to name names, and it starts with Sage Ryan. I mean, he's shifted back to safety right now, and he's looking to kind of go back to his natural position and shine there, but he can't tackle worth a damn right now.
yeah,
And I think there's going to be some changes that happen there. Look, I think Sage Ryan's a fantastic person. I think he can continue to carve out a role at safety, but again, consistency is going to be his best friend. But when you're looking at the cornerbacks as a whole, it's going to be Sage Ryan, or I'm sorry, it's going to be Ashton Stamps and Zy Alexander holding down the starting spot. But from a true freshman perspective, expect PJ Woodland to take some significant snaps there as well.
yeah. No, yeah. I'll just say, yeah, Sage Ryan and Major Burns, I can't stand them. So yeah,
Yeah.
watching them play, it's just they drive me crazy. But yeah, I don't know. They just seem to get these playing time just because of who they are. Just coming back to the program, so I don't get it. I feel like most LSU fans don't get it. So
Right.
at some point, there's gonna be a breaking point with everything. But yeah, I guess time will tell with that. So obviously, Ashton Stamps is your true number one cornerback, and then Zy Alexander seems like he's making his way back. So it's not a bad tandem. Hopefully, safety play will step up. Gilbert's been okay, like you said, sporadic. So if Sage Ryan's that other safety, then he'll be back in his natural position. But he's been bouncing around his whole career, never really found that spot. Hopefully, he can find it. But yeah, moving on to a little UCLA preview, and then I'll let you go. What are you looking at? I was looking at the spread. I was like, oh, I'm pretty interested in the spread. I was like, what is it going to be, like 14, 17? It's 23 points. Is UCLA really not that good of a team, or what's the latest with them?
Yeah, I mean UCLA is a bad team. I mean they're in the midst of a rebuild under a new head coach. He's an alum from UCLA. He's trying to do some things for that program, and it's going to take some time. They're a bad football team right now, and that's okay. But I think that 24-point spread might be a little bit too much. I don't even think LSU covered that against Nicholls. But look, I think at the end of the day, LSU is going to come out and get a win and continue trending in the right direction because you got this one, you got South Al, you got a bye week, and then you got Ole Miss, and then your gauntlet begins. So this is a tune-up game against a Power 4 program where you can test a couple of things. But you got to trend in the right direction here and get back on track. UCLA is a bad team. LSU should come out and win this game by double digits, 20 plus, hopefully, so that you can test some defensive changes there. But bad team, LSU's going to win that game, and we'll see what they do to kind of test things out.
Yeah, no, hopefully they take care of business. Man, they need a big win. Just beat the brakes off a team.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to UCLA. Didn't they fire their coach recently or last year or two? What was it?
Yeah. It was Kelly, right?
Chip Kelly. Yeah.
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 So
I can't keep up with UCLA.
me either.
Who's their coach now?
I couldn't even tell you honestly. He's an alum.
Yeah.
But he's got some work to do.
Yeah.
Deshaun Foster.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. Yeah. What is Chip Kelly doing these days?
It's a good question. I feel like he's an OC somewhere.
American football coach.
Yeah,
he's in
the OC
Ohio State. Oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, that dude's had a crazy career.
Yeah, he has.
Like,
yeah, he has.
I wanted Brian Kelly, whatever, hire him in some kind of capacity.
Right. Get Kubiak. But yeah,
I saw a tweet.
This week and you get it done.
I saw tweets like my daughter's gonna be real mad when I name her Clint Kubiak.
Right, dude, it's been unbelievable. We'll get some
That's
Saints
so
talk with Corey soon. But yeah, look, LSU's got an opportunity to continue trending in the right direction, get a big win over UCLA, get a big win over South Al, get a bye week to get everybody back on track, and then you get your big one, probably the biggest game of the year against Ole Miss. So we'll see what happens there. I know the last thing we want to talk about a little bit was some recruiting in the last couple of minutes. DJ Pickett, number one cornerback in America, will be back on campus this weekend. That's the big one. I mean, that's the biggest visitor here. This guy's going and taking visits to Miami. He's been to Florida. The Florida game's kind of a toss-up for me. He only went because they were playing Miami, and he has a family member on the Miami roster. So he was out there kind of just supporting the team, or supporting his cousin, rather. So he's taking his visits regardless. He's checked out Gainesville. He's checked out Miami. Miami's going to be that program that's going to push until the final buzzer in December for the early signing period. But to get him back on campus is fantastic. He'll be in for a game day, and I was told he'll be in for 3 game days total. So This is the first of 3. Continue to wine and dine, roll out the red carpet, and continue to keep him on board, because no matter what happens this year, this 2025 class is program changing, and you want to keep him intact. So DJ Pickett, number one cornerback, will be back on campus, and the visitors list will be rolled out in the next couple of days. But big to get him back on campus.
Are you worried about his recruitment at all, or not really?
From what I've heard, there's no reason to be worried right now. Obviously, the Miami connection is interesting. He's got a family member on the roster now. He's got another family member kind of projected to go there. So there's definitely some family ties there. It's the home state as well. He's a Sunshine State native. So it's one to keep tabs on for sure. But for now, the plan is to play for Corey Raymond. I mean, that was the key piece to his recruitment. And I don't imagine him kind of decommitting and going elsewhere. I'd be a little bit shocked at this point in time on September 17th, but recruiting's so fluid, anything can happen. But for now, I feel good about his recruitment, and I feel the same about Harlem Berry and Bryce Underwood too. So I think you keep that core intact, and you'll be in a good position in 2025.
Yeah, and I know DJ Pickett's got a fat NIL offer, so LSU fans don't have to worry about that. So I know you got to go. If you guys can like and subscribe, we'd really appreciate it. And yeah, we'll see you next time.